Well, for more on this, we're now joined by Janice Stein, the Belzberg Professor of Conflict Management at the University of Toronto's Department of Political Science. Janice, always good to see you. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Michael.
So listen, let's begin here with the dissolution of this war cabinet, because it does follow the departure of two moderate members of that body. Why did those members leave?
Well, the two members that you're talking about, Michael, one, Benny Gantz, a leader of the largest opposition party, a centrist right party, and the other, Gadi Eisenkot. Both of them, by the way, were former chiefs of the defense staff. And Gantz left primarily over what he describes as the absence of strategy on the part of Netanyahu. And this has been a consistent complaint for the last 3 or 4 months. No military wins without a strategy. And Netanyahu is a known procrastinator, an improviser who, because he is hostage to a far-right coalition in the country, will not talk about the day after the fighting ends. And that's the principal objection that both Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot have had, that there is no plan for the day after. And if you think you might have heard that before, Michael, you've heard it from Tony Blinken and the Biden administration as well.
So a wide shared concern then. So what impact will the dissolution of this cabinet, this war cabinet, have on the operations in Gaza?
There's no question that, and that was the reason that Benny Gantz went in, that was to create a small cabinet of decision makers, 3 at the political level, 1 diplomat, and Gadi Eisenkot at the military level, to take decision-making about the war out of the hands of the right-wing coalition. Now, they stepped back, the regular cabinet, the security cabinet, which is a subset of the broader political cabinet, but they frankly didn't step back far enough. And Netanyahu was held hostage to their decisions. Once these two are gone, the war cabinet serves no function. Decision-making is going back to the coalition, which will, in fact, empower the most right-wing voices in Israel on security decisions. There's no question about it.
So as you say, Netanyahu very much beholden to the coalition that keeps him in power in the Knesset. They are more right-wing, less centrist, more right-wing than other partners. So if that affects the war, what type of pressure then does Netanyahu face amongst the Israeli public, amongst Israeli voters? Just how popular is he right now and his policies?
Well, there's no question that this is the moment of greatest domestic pressure on Netanyahu throughout his whole career. And why is that, Michael? Because the families of hostages, which are a powerful political movement inside Israel, are pulling back into the streets now. Larger and larger numbers of Israelis who are saying the priority here must be the rescue of hostages, even if that means a permanent end to the war for now, if you get clever use of terms here. Mm-hmm. Stop this war now, agree to Hamas's terms fundamentally, although not the phasing. And the first order of priority has to be to bring back the hostages. Now, that position is widely supported in Israel. What is not widely supported in Israel is any resolution of this conflict which will leave Hamas in control of Gaza. Since the beginning of this war, Netanyahu's popularity has dropped. It has actually begun to recover a little bit, especially after the successful defense against Iranian missiles. But he still would lose his majority in the Knesset were an election to be held today. Benny Gantz would lead the largest party.
So right now, the current Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, essentially without his moderate allies in that war cabinet, facing criticism, facing a call to get the hostages out of Gaza, as well as beholden to essentially a more right-wing coalition in the Knesset. What are you watching out for then? There's so many threads to this in terms of where it might go.
There are. I'm really watching two things, and they're two quite separate threads, although they're connected. The first is we are, regardless of what government is in power right now, we are coming to the end of the high-intensity phase of conflict in Gaza. Frankly, this removes the last of the organized battalions, and we are transitioning out of the high-violence phase, out of the high-intensity phase, to what I expect, in the absence of any political strategy, to be an insurgency by Hamas. Which will take place at a much lower level of violence, but there will be continued fighting. In the north, where Hezbollah has made it clear that they will not cease the rocket fire until there is a formal ceasefire in Gaza, that fire has been escalating across that northern border. President Biden now has an envoy at Hochschild who is in the region on an urgent basis to try to get both parties to pull back. But I am watching that northern frontier with some apprehension.
Janice, I always appreciate the insight and the expertise. Thank you for this.
My pleasure, Mike.